Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Live at 4 on this Wednesday. Eric Franke filling in for Charlotte DeLeste, who was filling in for Susan Simon.
And she's on assignment.
And she's on vacation.
So we're here to man the fort. And,
yeah, we are.
Ladies will be back. Charlotte will be back tomorrow.
Charlotte will be back tomorrow, and Susan will be back next week.
Yeah.
And we will continue on today. Here's what's making news on this Wednesday. The official groundbreaking for the Foxconn development is 2 weeks away, but today there's a lawsuit being filed to stop the project in its tracks. 20 school districts across the state have been awarded grants to improve their safety programs. We'll find out which school districts. And he gained worldwide attention overnight. The story behind this scared and tired raccoon from Minnesota. We're sharing his tale of survival today on Live at 4. That was all over the internet.
He really can climb, though. Look at him go.
Yeah, that was pretty amazing.
Fearless.
But he's okay. The happy ending to that story coming up.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about the weather. It's a beautiful day out there today.
The humidity you were complaining about yesterday?
Yeah, it's kind of gone.
Look at this shot.
You got a day or so to enjoy it, though.
Sky 3. What are we looking at here? It's a small lake near Sauk City, we're being told.
Very specific. I'm sure it has a name.
Dennis isn't out here.
He's not out here. No, Fish Lake, we're told.
Okay, there we go.
People got their docks out. Probably some boating for the Father's Day weekend ahead.
That's going to be busy this weekend.
It's going to be hot. You're going to need to be near the water. But right now, it's about right.
Yeah, it is. Karen Swanson's in the backyard. Picture perfect day.
It really was. It was perfection out here today. We had the blue skies overhead, some very comfortable temperatures, and also some comfortable humidity levels today. And it looks like those humidity levels will stay lower into tomorrow as well before they surge for the weekend. And we do have 3 alert days coming up: Friday, Saturday, and also for Father's Day on Sunday. We're looking at building heat and humidity. There may be an isolated strong thunderstorm on Friday, but otherwise that heat and humidity will be persisting into the weekend with temperatures close to record values. But for right now, we've got some beautiful weather in place. We've got some sunshine, just a few high thin clouds back to our west. Those will eventually stream in here as we head into late tonight. Temperatures right now are in the upper 70s to the low 80s here in Madison. We're at 79 degrees. It's 81 in Janesville, 79 in Wisconsin Dells, and 79 degrees right now in Mineral Point. There's our view in Platteville from the Queen Bee Radio Skycam, and you can see some nice blue skies overhead in that direction as well. All of us have been enjoying some of this picture perfect weather this afternoon. Temperatures this evening will be falling through the 70s down to about the middle 60s by 10 o'clock. We'll see some sunshine this evening, eventually giving way to some partly cloudy skies then into the overnight hours. Now your first alert traffic, and we are seeing some slowdowns. Here's a look at the Gammon Road interchange with the Beltline, and we are seeing some of that slowing in that eastbound direction. There has been apparently some guardrail work over in that area. Also seeing some slowdowns elsewhere on the Beltline as well. So here's some of those eastbound slowdowns from about Old Sauk Road over toward the Whitney Way exit, seeing some of those slowdowns to around 20 to 30 miles per hour. They start up again right around Seminole Highway and continue all the way out past Southtown Drive, seeing some slowdowns through that area of around 20 to 25 miles per hour. So eastbound times and speeds, University Avenue to Verona Road will take you 12 minutes with an average speed of 34 miles per hour. Then heading out to John Nolan Drive, your average speed is 31 miles per hour. Heading out of town looking a little better at this hour. Down to Janesville, you're going about 65 miles per hour, and heading out to Sun Prairie will take 15 minutes. That's your first alert traffic.
Well, it's a nice afternoon for a leisurely drive. No hurry.
Exactly. Grab your sunglasses and I guess just enjoy.
Yeah. All right, Carl. We'll see you in a few minutes. Thank you.
First at 4, a Democratic candidate for governor says he is going to try and stop the Foxconn development from going forward.
Matt Flynn has a background in law and says it'll take a lawsuit to keep the electronic manufacturing company out of Wisconsin. News 3 reporter Adam Duxter talked with Flynn today and joins us from the Capitol with what he learned. Adam?
Those involved with the deal with Foxconn are skeptical this can even happen, but Matt Flynn says he believes something needs to happen to stop Foxconn. Flynn was on the steps of the City Council building in Madison laying out his plan today. Foxconn is slated to bring more than 13,000 jobs to southeast Wisconsin, and the state signed a contract with the state's job creation agency to subsidize that work. Flynn says he will have to file a lawsuit to have it revoked, and Governor Walker says that just won't happen.
I'm going to bring suit to stop it based on the fact that it's an illegal contract, unconstitutional contract.
Well, on behalf of the thousands of people who'll be working on building it and then ultimately there, I certainly hope not. The best way to ensure that those 13,000 good-paying jobs and the thousands of other good jobs stay here in the state of Wisconsin is make sure we keep the governor who got it there in the first place.
Flynn also cited the environmental impacts as a reason Foxconn should not come to Wisconsin. Now, when I talked to Matt Flynn earlier today, I asked him one simple question. Do you really think you can keep Foxconn from coming to Wisconsin? His answer, yes. Stay tuned at 5. We'll have more on this, including our conversation with the Wisconsin Technology Council.
All right, we'll see you then. Adam Duxter reporting live from the state capitol.
President Trump is telling Americans they can sleep a little better now that he has convinced North Korea to get rid of its nuclear weapons. The president arrived home this morning following his whirlwind summit with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un. He tweeted, quote, "Everyone can now feel much safer than the day I took office," end quote. He added there is no longer a nuclear threat from North Korea. The president and Kim signed a joint statement in Singapore promising the denuclearization of the Korean peninsula. The agreement had no mention of verification or a timeline or North Korea's human rights abuses, but Vice President Mike Pence says the U.S. has every intention to verify as negotiations go forward.
As the president said, our sanctions will remain in place until North Korea's nuclear weapons are no longer a factor.
President's surprise announcement to end what he called war games caught senior Pentagon officials as well as the South Koreans off guard. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo says he's taking the lead with North Korea and that he expects detailed talks to resume next week. Speaking from Seoul, he told reporters that U.S.-South Korea military exercises will resume if North Korea stops negotiating in good faith.
President Trump's former personal lawyer, Michael Cohen, is looking for new attorneys. His lawyer since 2017 is stepping aside as the FBI investigation into his business dealings intensifies. CBS News correspondent Mola Lenghi reports on the changeup from the White House.
Michael Cohen is on the hunt for new legal representation. Sources tell CBS News President Trump's former personal lawyer is under intense pressure from prosecutors who are investigating alleged fraud in his business dealings. Cohen has to decide whether to cooperate with the investigation or fight it in court. His attorney is stepping aside as Cohen looks for lawyers in New York. That's where FBI agents raided his office, home, and safety deposit box in April. Part of what they're examining is a secret payment Cohen made to adult film star Stormy Daniels for $130,000. Daniels claims she had an affair with President Trump in 2006. The president has called the investigation disgraceful and an assault on attorney-client privilege. Cohen has said he's innocent. Cohen's legal team, along with President Trump's lawyers, went to court to claim some of the 3.7 million documents and electronic files seized in the raids are protected by attorney-client privilege. They've been working for weeks to identify which ones should be withheld from prosecutors amid a looming deadline this Friday. Mola Lenghi, CBS News, the White House.
And there are no indications at this point that Cohen has discussed a plea deal with prosecutors who are still combing through the seized records as they try to build a case. Well, 20 school districts around the state will be able to make security upgrades under school safety grants awarded today.
Those 20 schools collectively will get more than $1.3 million out of a total $100 million initiative. Our Rose Schmidt joins us from the newsroom to tell us what that money will pay for. Rose?
Eric and Mark, the school districts getting the money are from all over the state, including 2 from our area, Barneveld and Mauston. Attorney General Brad Schimel signed the documents giving the money to the schools today. Primary grants focus on hardening school entryways and adding locks on all doors. The grant money could also be used for camera systems, training for school staff, and notification systems.
These schools, both large and small, private and public, here today, are all receiving these grants just 5 days after the deadline closed because they had everything in order in their grant applications.
The goal is for the school districts to make the security upgrades before students come back in the fall, and even more schools will receive money in the next few weeks. Attorney General Schimel says it's possible the Office of School Safety may not even use all of that $100 million right away, which could open up the door for schools to apply again in the future. On News 3 at 6, we will hear from a superintendent of a local school that got one of the largest grants awarded so far.
All right, Rose, thank you. We'll see you at 6 o'clock. Well, it looks like the story of the world-famous skyscraping scaling raccoon has a happy ending. The raccoon first captured the hearts of millions on the internet when it started climbing a St. Paul skyscraper yesterday afternoon, eventually setting on a ledge more than 20 stories up where it spent several hours napping. It then continued its journey upward after being scared by building workers trying to help it off an overhang.
The maintenance staff came out with some 2x4s screwed together and pushed them up to the raccoon, thinking that he would run down the boards onto the street and escape.
Animal control officer set a trap on the roof filled with cat food. The raccoon eventually made it there, took the bait, and was captured. And we have this video just in to the News Reaction Center. The raccoon being released by Wildlife Management Services somewhere in the wild, hopefully settling into a more rural setting.
It was all just a ploy. He just wanted a snack.
That's right. They wanted a free ride out in the country. There he goes.
20 stories up.
Fearless. Safe and sound. Good for him.
And still to come.
We don't know.
We don't know. Still to come at 4, the World Cup of Soccer kicks off tomorrow in Russia.
And there's more exciting news for soccer fans. The World Cup is coming to North America, but you have to wait until 2026. That story coming up next on Live at 4. Welcome back. For the second time in history, the United States will host the world prestigious soccer tournament in the world. The most
prestigious. This is a big deal. This is the FIFA World Cup. It's heading to the U.S. and Canada and Mexico, all 3 countries in 2026. The first time that the World Cup, in fact, will be hosted by 3 different nations. The United bid included 23 candidate host cities. FIFA, the soccer governing body, will choose 16 for the tournament. Boston, one of the stadiums in the running.
I think we have a great chance to do so. We have a tremendous history of not only sport, but in particular soccer.
I think what resonated most with the member associations was the fact that we're united. It's the first World Cup that we're going to have 48 countries competing, so verse 32. The certainty that our stadiums are already built.
Now, the North American bid is expected to generate $11 billion in profits for FIFA, with much of that money going into investing into the future of the sport. Matches in the 2018 World Cup will actually start tomorrow in Russia. The United States team did not qualify for this year's event.
The Federal Reserve is raising its benchmark interest rates for the second time this year. It's also signaling that it may step up its pace of rate increases because of solid economic growth and rising inflation. The Fed now foresees 4 rate hikes this year, up from the 3 it had previously forecast. And that news did not sit well on Wall Street. The Dow Industrials lost 119 points. Closing at 25,201, the NASDAQ Composite Index gave up 8, and the S&P 500 was off 11. Well, don't forget Dad this weekend. Father's Day just a few days away now.
And our next guest is a Wisconsin-based writer. David McGlynn wrote about fatherhood in the book, One Day You'll Thank Me, Lessons from an Unexpected Fatherhood. And we welcome David now to Live at 4. And David, happy Father's Day weekend.
Thank you for having me.
We've all heard that. One day you'll thank me.
Yeah. Yeah. Everybody got that from Dad once. Now, we should mention you're a writer at Lawrence University.
I am.
How is it that you came to write about fatherhood?
So my family moved here from Salt Lake City, Utah, where we were living before we moved to Wisconsin in 2006. And that meant that our family was all really far away. We had family in California and Texas and back in Utah. And I would call home and tell these stories about the kids because my family didn't get to see the boys that much. And they were always funny and they were always enjoyable. And so I found myself at a certain point thinking, you know, I'm a writer. I should start to write some of these down. Turns out that there are a lot of books about motherhood. There are comparatively few books about fatherhood. And most of the ones that are out there are about, you know, how to survive your first year of fatherhood or, you know, how to go golfing or fishing with your dad. And it struck me that most parents, most dads especially, want to have fun with their kids, but at the same time, they take the job more seriously than it's often treated.
You got to be good cop and bad cop at the same time.
At the same time, absolutely.
So is this book about your childhood or you as a parent?
Well, it's mostly about my life as a parent and raising 2 very spirited, very energetic boys. But there is a strain in the narrative that is about my relationship with my own father. My parents divorced when I was 12, and my dad moved from Texas, where we were living then, to California. And I'd only get to see him for a few weeks a year. So as I'm thinking about how to do right by my kids, I'm remembering the ways that my dad tried to parent my sister and I from afar. And I thought he did a good job, but it was a unique situation.
Now, your boys are 13, 11. I have 2 boys that are 13, 11. Have they read the book, and what do they think?
They like it. They like it. In fact, my younger son is an especially big fan of it. My older son, now that he's getting to the end of junior high,
he's too cool, right?
He thinks I'm not so sure I want to be on the page anymore.
How about your dad? Has he read it?
He likes it. Yeah, he likes it. And you know, he's heard and laughed at these stories for a long time, and so he gets a kick out of them.
So you like to put humor in this?
I do. I do. There's a lot of humor in the book.
And this all started with some columns, some essays in Esquire magazine?
Well, they're Men's Health magazine, and then others appeared in Oprah magazine, Real Simple magazine, and the New York Times.
Yeah, you got to have a sense of humor when you're parenting.
Well, there's a lot of comedy when you're trying to parent children.
Yeah, especially little
boys. Especially 2 boys.
Especially 2 boys.
I can attest to that. Now, one thing you're also writing on, I know you've written an essay for the New York Times on this, on the issue of, you know, we've had these stories lately all over the nation about men behaving badly.
That's right.
The Me Too movement. You're writing about that in an essay, or you've written about it in an essay in the New York Times. Tell us a little bit about that.
So, you know, I did write an essay about how to help my boys become good guys or good men in this age of the Me Too movement. And I ended up talking to a number of psychologists and sociologists about their insights and expertise on the subject. And it turns out that, according to them, that the trick to raising good boys is to help them think about their lives as young men in ways that are beyond the sort of traditional expectations of masculinity. Teaching them about empathy, teaching them to do jobs around the house that might traditionally be jobs given to girls, like caring for younger children or younger siblings and washing clothes and that sort of thing. One expert I talked to talked about, you know, watching movies with your kids and noticing how the women are portrayed versus the men and having a frank conversation about that. And in many ways, it's not so different than the things I talk about in the book, that as parents, we're constantly in a process of trying to talk to our children to lead and guide them in the best way that we can. And I don't think those tricks are all that complicated, but they have to be thoughtful and deliberate.
Dads are different these days.
They are.
Totally different. Well, you can hear more from David McGlynn tonight at a book reading at 702 WI. It'll start at 7 p.m. That's a new creative workspace. It's located at 702 East Johnson Street. Might make a great Father's Day read if you're looking for a little gift for Dad this weekend. Still haven't gotten that gift picked out. David, nice to meet you. Best of luck with the book.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much for having me.
Keep writing.
And happy Father's Day
Happy
once
Father's Day
again.
to you.
Thanks again.
Yeah.
There's more to come at 4.
We'll find out the story behind these incredible wedding photos coming up after Karen's very warm weekend forecast. Stay with us.
Take a look at this. This is payback. Thomas Reveau is dumping a bunch of junk in front of the new home of his 2 past tenants. The landlord says it's the trash the renters left behind after moving out of his property. This is the house. He posted pictures and video of the abandoned mess on
People
Facebook
do that.
before exacting his revenge. Here you go, folks.
Guess what, though? Those tenants aren't going to clean that up either.
You were a landlord at one point.
And they do that. And I saw Aaron on our floor crew. He's a landlord. He's nodding his head. He's like, yeah, I picked up some junk in my day.
Load up the dump truck.
Yeah.
He's getting ideas over there. He's renting a dump truck tonight.
Go ahead.
Wednesday, June 13th.
It's National Sewing Machine Day. Thomas Saint of England took out the first patent for a complete sewing machine in 1790.
It's also National Kitchen Klutzes Day. Who hasn't been a klutz in the kitchen at some point?
Oh, I have the wounds.
I have a scar from a potato peel.
Well, Susan's always coming in with her hands all wrapped up. She's taking stuff out of the oven.
Burned.
Yeah.
She's a kitchen klutz.
Without a hot mitt.
Susan's definitely a kitchen klutz.
She looked really sad about a month ago with her burns and her knife wounds.
Don't you have a mitt?
Speaking of wounds, you've done a little of this lately. It's also Weed Your Garden Day. Weeds can inhibit garden plants from growing as they compete with them for sunlight, nutrients, and water. Did we really need a definition of what a weed is?
There's Farmer Dylan. Farmer
Is that
Dylan
Dylan over there?
and Farmer Mike.
Is that Mike? Mike's always out there.
Yeah.
You gotta set a little cot up for him to just sleep out there. National Weed Your Garden Day. Spend extra time cleaning up those gardens, and do it now because you don't want to have to do it over the weekend.
You don't want to do it this weekend.
No, you don't. I did a lot of outside stuff this morning, just getting ready because we have some heat and humidity that's going to be heading our way for the weekend. So we'll talk about how warm those temperatures go, along with those heat index values. That's coming up next. Today was definitely a bottle it up kind of a day across the region. We had the sunshine today and also some very comfortable feeling temperatures and lower humidity levels. We had those dew points up close to 70 degrees yesterday, and today they dropped off quite a bit. We did not have any rain today. We have had a lot of days with rain this month, not a lot accumulating on most of those days. We did have that heavier amount back on Sunday, but most of the days so far this month, even though we've had a lot of days with rain, we've not checked in with a tremendous number so far this month. 1.47 inches our total so far. And this is a look at the year so far. This includes all of our rain as well as melted down snow, so liquid precipitation for the year. And we've got about 18 inches here in Madison. You can see how those amounts really drop off into the northern part of the state. So we're well above normal here across southern Wisconsin. We've had a lot of storm systems just kind of training right over southern Wisconsin over the last, say, month and a half, bringing us some of those higher rain amounts, but those amounts are smaller and below normal into the northern part of the state. Temperatures today were very nice, starting off in the 60s this morning and ending up so far in the upper 70s this afternoon. We're really going to climb in the temperature department over the next several days. You can see those temperatures rising into the low and even middle 90s for the weekend. We do drop it off a bit into next week, but in addition to that higher heat for the weekend, we'll also have some high dew points, so those heat index values may make it feel more like the upper 90s to even the low 100s at times as we head through this weekend. Temperatures today at 79 and 67. Normals for today are 77 degrees and 56. Right now in Madison, it's 79 with winds out of the northwest at 7 miles per hour. Those temperatures elsewhere are anywhere from the upper 70s to the low 80s. Some fairly uniform temperatures throughout the southern part of the state. 77 right now over toward Platteville, but dew points, those are significantly lower than they were yesterday at this time, back into the 40s and 50s as that drier air has made its way across the region. Those dew points right now are anywhere from about 20 to almost 30 degrees lower than they were yesterday at this time. So we've lost that stickiness and it's feeling a lot more comfortable. We do have temperatures down to our south in the 80s to close to 90 degrees, but we've got that pleasant weather right through the Great Lakes region. That cold front moved through, that's well off to our east now. High pressure moving through the region gave us that sunshine today and will continue to keep us dry as we head through tonight and into much of tomorrow as well. Eventually this warm front starts to lift to the north and that brings us a chance of a few showers and thunderstorms late tomorrow night. We'll continue to see some chances on Friday. I think Friday the better chances will be early in the day and then redeveloping later in the day. And there is a chance that there could be an isolated stronger storm on Friday as well. So this evening we're looking at some clear skies, then eventually turning partly cloudy late tonight. The temperature drops back to 55 tomorrow. Another beautiful day, partly sunny with that high of 81. Here's your future track forecast showing those clear skies this evening. Those temperatures dropping back into the 50s overnight. A few more clouds working their way in late tonight, and we'll see that mixture of clouds and sunshine as we head through the day tomorrow. Temperatures back up into the upper 70s to the low 80s. Beyond that is when we really heat things up. We do have those alert days in the forecast for Friday and for the weekend for that heat and humidity. We do have those shower and thunderstorm chances Friday, mainly early and again late in the day, then looking mainly dry for the weekend, but it's going to be hot and humid. Some shower and thunderstorm chances return early next week as a cold front slowly makes its way through, and that brings us those chances, especially later Monday into Tuesday. After that, looking at some overall fairly quiet weather for the second part of next week.
That's hot.
Stay cool.
Yeah, maybe plan some indoor activities for Dad for Father's Day, right?
He's going to a baseball tournament.
Oh, that sounds fun.
You need an umbrella just to protect yourself from the sun.
You need to hire someone to just
those little spray
mist
things.
at you. Yeah.
It's going to be toast.
Thank you.
And
speaking of hot, some couples have sparks. One Colorado couple has a wildfire.
Sarah Kramer and her new husband post her wedding photos in front of the 416 wildfire. The fire has forced the couple to move their wedding venue at the very last minute, so they decided to fight fire with fire, if you will, using the blaze as a backdrop. No injuries or any property damage has been reported from this, but the fire has destroyed at least 23,000 acres, and it did prompt some mandatory evacuations. Do we have some wedding music in the background of this? Just doesn't have the same effect with wildfires. The couple says they wanted to show their appreciation of the crews who were out there battling the blaze, and they're using the photos to encourage people to donate to a foundation providing relief and resources for Coloradians?
Coloradans?
I think it's Coloradans.
People in Colorado.
I don't know, yeah. People from Colorado affected by the wildfires.
Dramatic pictures, but doing some good with them as well.
Yeah, nice music too, Steve. Good choice.
Because does the dad in your life like to work in the garden?
Yeah, Lisa Briggs joining us from the Bruce Company with some garden gifts that are perfect for Dad this Father's Day. That's what Live at 4 continues.
cruisers should be on it after one like
we
this.
should do the show from here.
Lake Mendota, the boats outside of the Moyle Union. Great day for that.
Yeah, be on the water this weekend. Father's Day also this weekend. If you are still out there looking for something to give dear old dad, well, you've come to the right place.
Lisa Briggs on the Bruce Company is here with some last-minute ideas. Hi, Lisa.
Hello. Why are dads last minute and moms like you plan way in advance? Why is that?
Because you get in more trouble if you don't make mom
the
happy.
same reason there are more books written about moms than dads.
There you go.
So let's start with a couple fun things for
Okay.
dad for gifts. So these tools are by Wolfgarten, and Mark can demonstrate because I showed him how.
You
So you get.
You don't want the rake?
Yes.
Wow.
Take
You
that
can
off.
use a hoe or a cultivator.
Put on the hoe.
So it's kind of snazzy. Dads like gadgets.
Yeah.
And they're good, well-made tools, and
And there's, I assume there's other attachments.
multiple attachments, yes. So kind of
Okay.
fun. And then these from Snake Eyes, these are yard games, so they're dice and also dominoes. They're made in Minnesota out of reclaimed wood, and they come with a list of games and instructions so you can play in the yard,
Yard games.
Yard games. Yep, not jarts.
Instead of jarts?
Jarts,
I don't think they make those anymore,
You
do
won't
they?
take any eyes out with these dice.
You can clunk
Don't
somebody in the
impale
head.
someone.
No impaling, exactly.
All right, it's going to be a hot weekend.
It's going to be a hot weekend, and maybe you want a project, a dad-kid project, so it's hot, so I thought we'd do a little water feature.
Yeah. Okay.
So this is a little tabletop water feature, and what you need basically are 3 nesting pots, like this, so graduated sizes.
Okay.
And then you need 2 pots that will stand inside of the larger ones. So what we've got here is the biggest pot with just a clay pot inside.
Upside down.
Upside down, and then you stack, and vice versa.
Okay.
So, but what you do is, let's get this out of here. You put a pump in the bottom of the pot underneath this.
A water pump.
A water pump, hook a hose up to it, have the hose come up through the holes, and then it will fill the pot, fill the pot, fill the pot. Yes, exactly. And so.
Break it, you buy it, Mark.
So you would think that you would want pots without holes because that would be easy, except that the hose has to come up through the pots. I brought these because you want pots that are impervious to water. Like this would not work for your container because the water will leach through the terracotta. So you want plastic or something else that is inorganic or ceramic, something that's hard fired. And then you take this silicone, and this is pond grade silicone. It's what they use to glue liners together, but you can use stuff from the hardware store.
Okay.
You just want some sort of glue that's waterproof. Okay. And you would put the hose through here and then seal that up. Let it dry thoroughly. If there are any other holes in there, you'll want to plug those up because you want these to hold the water. And then you fill it up with water, plug it in, and you get a little sound of water. It'll fill and spill and fill and spill and recirculate itself.
Now, for those that aren't creative, you got really nice, like ready-made.
Already done.
We do have some
too.
really nice little tabletop fountains, yes. But
All right.
Those
maybe
are really
you want
popular.
project.
Having a water feature on a hot day is nice.
I think so. I have one in my yard.
Soothing.
It is.
While you sit on the patio.
And it's good for the birds, too.
Yeah, it brings them in.
Yes,
Great
indeed.
Father's Day stuff.
Thank you.
All right, thanks,
Good
Lisa.
stuff.
Happy
Lisa, thanks
Father's
for
Day.
Thank you very much.
38 years ago, the anti-war documentary, The War at Home, was released.
Yeah, all about Madison. And now as the class of '68 returns to campus for a Madison reunion, we'll talk with one of the producers of the film who is releasing a restored version of it this fall. It's been live at 4. Continue. Stay with us.
Your first alert traffic view from our Department of Transportation camera at the Beltline and Gammon Road is no longer showing that slowing that we were looking at earlier in the newscast because of some of that guardrail repair. But we are seeing some slowing just to the east of there, starting up pretty close to Gammon Road and then heading out all the way to the east through the Beltline over toward the Southtown Drive exit. Also starting to see some of those westbound slowdowns as well. Both directions seeing that slowing from around 10 to almost 25 miles per hour. So here are some of your eastbound speeds and times. You're traveling around 16 miles per hour from Verona Road over toward John Nolan Drive, and then back in the westbound direction, that same spot, seeing some of those slowdowns to around 29 miles per hour. That's your first alert traffic.
It was like a war zone. Clouds of tear gas, the rubble, the barricades, the bleeding, the rocks being thrown, the armored police, the whole bit.
Those are scenes from the feature documentary, The War at Home, focusing on the anti-war movement of the 60s and 70s on campus and how it spilled into the streets of Madison.
It was first released 38 years ago by two filmmakers. It is being featured this weekend as part of the big Madison reunion event, and we welcome one of those producers, Glenn Silber, to Live at 4. Glenn, great to see you.
Welcome back to Madison.
Thank you. It's so great to be here.
What are some of those feelings you have as you come back into town?
Wow. You know, I came here as a student in 1968, out of a little suburban bubble in New Jersey. Thought everything was going to be like a Big Ten university with football and cheerleaders and maybe even a fraternity, and it wasn't like that. Right. By the time I got here, the anti-war movement was already in full force. And don't forget, we had 500,000 soldiers in Vietnam at that same time. This was right after the Chicago Convention had happened that just kind of showed how polarized we were. And we're having the 50th anniversary of that in August. So it was really coming back here now. I've come back quite a bit, often to show films, but really this is where I made my bones. This is where I got my start. And, you know, it's always going to be right in my heart.
What was it like producing the documentary back then?
Well, I was very young. I was in my 20s, and we even finished it in our 20s. And I got my biggest break ever thanks to you guys, because the heart of the film, the visual heart of the film, is all the local TV news film that you shot, that MTV shot, that
WMTV,
yeah, right,
KOW.
MTV and KOW. Because for them, that was a new story. You know, the war was just picking up steam, and they were really escalating it, but having protesters, you know, talking about this was really, don't forget, we were kind of still coming out of the Cold War, maybe still in the Cold War, and so for protesters to be out there, that was a news story. I remember Blake Kellogg was one of the great news directors at KOW, I think it was, right. And he knew, he had a sense of history that this was special, and what my biggest break as a producer was, before he left, he made sure all the news films shot there from 1959 to 1972, really spanning the whole decade, was donated to the Wisconsin Historical Society. And I'd been up there banging around looking for photos, home movies, anything I could find, and I was really mostly striking out. And then one day, the guy who ran the whole film department there, a wonderful man named George Talbot, said, "Silber, get over here. Today could be your lucky day." And I said, "Well, I could really use some." He said, "Well, here's the deal. We just got this humongous collection, and we don't have a clue what's in it, and we don't have the money to go through it. But if you want to clean the film and fix the splices, and most of all, tell us what's there, we'll make you," I guess you call it a sweat equity deal. So that was the biggest break I ever got in my career. And then after they gave the film, WISC gave the film, everyone wanted to, you know, preserve it, maybe take a little tax write-off, I'm not sure about that. But basically, it was just a tremendous opportunity. So we studied what were the key events, who were at the key events, and what existed already on film. And it was pretty sort of simple in a way. The problem we had was we didn't have any money. So that took a while to raise that.
And now, 50 years later, this becomes kind of an important historical document in many ways. Classes watch it to really remember,
yes,
as time goes by, what Madison was like at that time.
Well, I think it's important in a lot of ways. I call it foundational history. I don't think we could have the kind of women's marches or the teenage youth anti-gun violence marches if we hadn't gone through that experience in the 60s and 70s. It really started with civil rights, but we pick up with the anti-war side of it. And I just feel like the film has a lot to offer, you know, and also this is the only feature documentary that exists on the anti-war movement. Of course, we tell the story through Madison as if it's a microcosm of what's happening everywhere, because everything happened in Madison. from the earliest demonstration really put on film, on record in October of '63, through, of course, all the events that took place with the Dow demonstration in '67, the tragic bombing in 1970, all the way, it carries all the way till the signing of the Paris Peace Accords that ended the war in '73.
And now you've restored it.
Well, we're working on it. We're showing kind of a sneak preview of it. It's actually needs, I might also add work in progress. It's very complicated when you go back now. We were shooting film, a nice 20th century technology.
16mm film.
Exactly, and that's what you were shooting.
Right.
But today, if your film, even if it's an Oscar nominee, which The War at Home is, if it's not in a high-def format, you know, it might as well not exist. Right. How do you show it?
Nobody wants to see it.
Yeah, well, it's how the platforms today are widely out there, but you've got to be there. So we have engaged the process. We've raised money for the restoration. And now, actually, we're premiering it here, but we're really sneak previewing it because we're going to re-release it this fall, starting in New York.
And there's a sneak I can't say it either. But you're doing it this weekend.
Yes.
7 o'clock Friday and 2 p.m. on Saturday at the Cinematheque at Vilas Hall. And you have some other films that you're showing tonight.
Yeah, tonight, because I was going to be here, I was invited by the Progressive magazine to show 2 nights of films. Last night we had a great screening of an old film my wife and I made called Atomic Artist, which was a short that played in front of a wonderful film, a new film on Martin Luther King that was incredibly moving. And then tonight I'm also showing 2 films, one of which I made as a student, I have to admit. It's a little educational comedy called Grow Your Own. And I'll leave that to your imagination, what we were growing. But the big film tonight is a feature documentary, an award-winning film my wife and I made on a kind of a radical theater company that's been here to Madison many, many times called the San Francisco Mime Troupe, which is not a silent mime group. It's a French use of the word, and it's a great history using theater as a sort of social protest vehicle, but also very, very entertaining and always very funny.
They led the anti-war group up to the Dow Chemical.
Yes, good for you.
At Commerce Hall.
You're hip to the
I did a long piece last week.
Oh, okay.
on this whole reunion. So, what a great weekend it's going to be.
Well, I'm really encouraged that we're going to have 900 people, all of whom are somehow connected to Madison and the anti-war movement. I feel that all of us really, those years in the 60s and 70s changed us fundamentally. Everyone in my family was a lawyer. Well, after that period of time, I wasn't so sure about that, and I was able to follow my own dream and become a filmmaker. My goal was always to save the world with epic documentaries, and I'm still trying to do that.
Tonight at the Barrymore, and then this weekend on campus, The War.
Yeah.
Welcome home.
Thanks so much. It's great to be here.
All right, Glenn,
really appreciate it.
Enjoy the weekend.
We'll be right back with a final check your forecast. enjoy tonight.
Yeah, definitely. It's a beautiful late afternoon. We've got the sunshine out there, just some high, thin clouds moving through, but it should be a nice evening. Perhaps if you want to go for a walk or do some grilling for dinner, we'll have those mostly clear skies this evening. Temperatures dropping to the middle 60s by late evening. Then we're down in the middle 50s overnight with high temperatures back into the low 80s tomorrow. I think we'll see more clouds tomorrow, but still plenty of sunshine, kind of a mixture of sun and clouds through the day. And then those next rain chances arrive late tomorrow night and into the day on Friday. Perhaps a stray strong thunderstorm as well on Friday.
Okay.
All right, and the heat for the weekend.
Yes.
All right, Karen, thank you. And coming up tomorrow here on Live at 4, we'll find out what's happening in the 608 this weekend with Emmy Fink.
And former UW student, CBS travel editor Peter Greenberg travels to campus to take part in the Madison reunion. He'll join us tomorrow on Live at 4.